Kadosh Boker Tov Moadim L'Simcha. Masechet Sotah Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph 11a1. It says here in the Gemara, we were just mentioning, Amar Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa, says Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa, when they were explaining the pasuk of Masechet Hashem Be'emek HaMelech, Be'etza Muka Shel Malko Shel Olam. We're talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was Gazar al David because of the action of Batsheva, that there's going to go such a rebellion against him. Okay? That's what it says. Because of the sin of Batsheva, so there was a very big rebellion that went against him. It says in the pasuk, you're going to have somebody, some negative, some bad things coming from within your own house. And that was because of what happened with this Batsheva. You say the same thing. Says it's because of the etzah of the tzaddik Avraham Avinu that he's buried in Hebron. It says by Avraham Avinu, he already knew that there was going to be the subjugation of the children. And this finished with Mechiyat Yosef. And then it brought everybody down to Mitzrayim. Okay? Fine. Then the Gemara says, Ki amar en li ben. So he says, when we're talking about the concept of the mitzvah of Shalom, velo havu lebane, he says what? He didn't have children? Avshalom did not have children? It says, he said he had 3 boys and 1 girl, meaning Avshalom had children. Avshalom was the son of David HaMelech, and he had children. He had 3 boys and 1 girl. He didn't have a child which was fitting for Malchut. That's the first answer. Rav Chasta says, Gimine, we have a masoret, a tradition. Kol hasoref tvuato shel chavero, eno maniach ben yorsho. He says, anybody that comes and he's going to burn the grain of his friend will not have a child to inherit him. Ve'iu kalyeled Yoav, and he came and he burnt the tvuah of Yoav. Tichtiv vayomer avadav reu chelkat Yoav el yedi, velo sham seorim lechu v'tzitu v'esh. Which means he came and he burnt all the grain of Yoav ben Surya. So because he did that, what happened, right? There was not going to be any children, right? Because they already died. Meaning since he went and he burnt the grain of the Yoav, all his children died. Okay? Which is something incredible, because then afterwards, remember, Yoav was the one that killed Shalom. Okay? Says the same thing will go in Tovah for good things, which means just like you act, they act with you. What does that mean? Miriam waited for Moshe Rabbeinu 1 hour. Look how this is all connected to Pesach, right? One after another, everything was connected to everything what we were speaking about in Pesach. So says the Gemara, Midami, is it compare? Can you compare both cases? Hatam chadashata. There, she only waited 1 hour. Hacha shiva yomeh. Here, they waited for her for 7 days. What's going on? How could it be that there, right? She waited for 1 hour and then 7 days. So Tosafot actually says that it's lav davka sha'achat, but it's rather a quarter of an hour or it's 20 minutes, as is brought down. Midat Tovah is good, is much better than Midat Puranut by 500 times, right? So therefore, he wants to say how many minutes was it? It was literally 15 minutes. Imagine she waited 15 minutes for her brother and all of Klal Yisrael, right? We're talking about legions, hundreds and hundreds. We're talking about millions of people. Because if there was 600,000 men from 20 to 60, imagine all the children, meaning boys and girls underneath 20, and men and women over 60. Imagine what that is. And all the women, which are from 20 to 60. But 600,000 is just the men. So you're talking about probably around 3 million people. Yeah? And what? And they waited for 7 days because she waited for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So it's like 500-fold. So Rabbi says, but rather why? Because they're going to pay them back much greater. So Rabbi says, it says 1 second, but it's written v'chen, and also it's the exact same thing. So he says, rather Rabbi says, hachi ktani. This is what it means. Say, v'chen linyana tova de be'ota midah uleolam midah tova merubah midah purnut. You're right. The same thing is to do with good. The same way that you did, they do to you, but they pay you back more. Meaning when it's going to be on the negative, they pay you a certain amount. When it's going to be the positive, it's going to be even more. Okay? Fine. But so the sister was a little bit further away. Amar Yitzchak says of Yitzchak, Pasuk ze kulo al shem Shekhinah ne'emar. The entire pasuk was said to do with Shekhinah. What does that mean? Right? That he was referring to the Shekhinah. not כאילו the sister. ותתצב, תכתיב ויבוא השם ויתייצב. אחותו, תכתיב מול החוכמה, אחות יד. זה חוכמה, מקור החוכמה is השם. מרחוק. What is מרחוק? תכתיב מרחוק השם נראה לי. לדעה דכתיב, כי אל דעות השם. מה דכתיב, מה השם לוקח השם ממך? יעשה דכתיב, כי לא יעשה השם אלוקים דבר. לא דכתיב ויקרא לו השם שלום. Fine. So therefore you see that the entire pasuk is referring to really HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not really anybody else. Fine. Then the Gemara explains. Vayakom melech chadash al Mitzrayim. Right, Mamash, we're going on the seder of the parasha of Shemot, of Yetziat Mitzrayim. So there was a new king that came into Mitzrayim. Rav Shmuel, one of them says, Chadash Mamash, a real new king, and one of them says, no, Shenitchachu Gzerotav, that they mean new Gezerot, right, against Bnei Yisrael. That means it was the same king. They just mean new Gezerot. That's what it means it was a new king. Man Damar Dichtiv, right, the one that says Chadash Mamash was a written, like Omel Chadash. But according to man Damar, Nitchachu Gzerotav, Delokti Vayamot Vayimloch Tachtav. It doesn't say that the first one died and somebody else came and took his space. So since it doesn't say nobody died and somebody took his place, it was probably the same one, but he just made new decrees. Ashalo Yadat Yosef, he didn't know Yosef. It's like Ki'ilu, he made himself, he didn't know Yosef. Everybody knew Yosef. Yosef saved the entire country. But Ki'ilu, they didn't know who Yosef was. Vayomer Elamo, Hineam Bnei Yisrael, right, Rav Atzumimenu, Tana, who itchil be'etzat tchila, Paro started in the etzat the beginning, Lakat tchila, so he got punished first. He told his nation that the tzfardim came and they hit him. The frogs came and they went into him first before anybody else. So we have to become smart with them, with him. Lahem lahem, through them. So when it says we have to become smart with him. What's with him? Lahem, to the Jews, not to him. Lahem ibayle. So Amar Recham Rechanina says Recham Rechanina, Bo v'nechkam l'Moshiach shel Yisrael. We have to become very smart with the with the Savior of Israel. But men and how are we going to judge him? We're going to judge him with fire. It's written Kinei Hashem b'yov b'yeshevo. K'tiv b'yesh niyah Hashem nishpat. B'acherev it's going to be with kill by the sword. K'tiv u'charabo lekol basar. We're going to do it with water. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu already said that he's not going to bring another Mabul to the world. Shneimar, ki menoach zol liyah shenishbati me'avor menoach. Vehen and yodim, but they didn't know shakol ha'olam kulom nevi. He's not going to bring it on the entire world, but on one nation he will bring the water. Inami or hueno mevi, he's not going to bring it, but they're going to fall into it. And that's what happened with Tzad Nasim Mikato. They're going to run into the water. He didn't bring the water into them. They ran into the water. It's something completely different. And that's what Rabbi Lazar says. What does it mean in the pasuk when it's written? Kiva davar asher zadu alehem. In the same pot that they cooked, they were cooked in it. Meaning, they went and they cooked, but they were actually going to be cooked, right, in it as well. Okay? My mashma, what does it mean, zadu? How do you know that it's a pot? That he went and he made this food, which is a pot. Do you know there are three people in that itzah, in that advice? Meaning there are three people in that board meeting. Okay? Bilam, Iyov, and Yitro. Bilam shi'atz nerag. Bilam said to kill the Jews. So what happened? He was killed. He was killed by the Jews. Iyov, he kept quiet. Since he kept quiet, he had to be suffering for the rest of his life. Yitro ran away. He didn't want to say it. He just ran. He took off. So therefore he was zocher that his grandchildren, right, were sitting in the Lishkat Gazit in the Sanhedrin. Shneimar, Mishpachot Sofrim Yoshvei Yavetz. Tiratim Shvatim Suchatim. Hema Kenim Avayim Echmat Avi Bet Rechev. Right, and then it's written, Uvne Keni Chotel Moshe. These are the people who come from Moshe. So then Paro comes and says, they're going to fight us, and they're going to take us out of the land. Ve'alinu mibaile. What does it mean, ve'ala? It's going to come up. Ve'alinu, we came up. Amar. So he comes and he says, Amar. Rabbi Abba Barkana, it says Rabbi Abba Barkana, Kadam shemekalel et atzmo, he's cursing himself, but he doesn't want to curse himself, mamash. So he's being independent on other people. So he comes and he says, really, they're going to go up from the land. But he just wanted to say it in the eye that he's going to go up from the land because he didn't want to curse themselves. So they're going to put taskmasters on him, on them. Right? They brought him malben. They put it on Paro. He said, what? Paro himself was working. Paro himself was working. They came in the so somebody was going to say, nah, I can't work with bricks. Well, you better than Paro? Look at Paro, the king, the ruler. He's over there, he's working. You're not going to work. Sareh misim, davar shemisim. It's something which is going to come and put them for avodah zarah. Sorry, so basically, what are we saying now? So now we're trying to say that it's sareh misim is davar shemesim, something that is like forcing somebody else to do work. Okay? Leman anoto b'sivrotam, to come and cause them afflictions. Anotam mibaile. Maze anoto? Again, it's for him. So he says like this. He says, really be'emet anotam mibaile. Leman anoto b'faro, right? It's really for Pharaoh, right? And sivrotam diseh. Vayiven arem miskenot leFaro. So they're going to build, right, cities of miskenot for Pharaoh. Rav Shmuel Chadabar, one of them says, "Mesaknot balehen." It's actually a sakana for the people that are building it, right? Because these two mamash, it was making them because basically since they forced Bnei Yisrael to work, so they drowned in the city in the sea. The Chadamar, one of them is maskenot balehen. It makes them miskenot. What does that mean? That basically since they came and they forced the Jews to build these cities, so basically they lost all their properties. This is a very general rule. When you want to build something, you become poor. Why? Because they come and they tell you, listen, it costs you $10 to build, costs you 20. They tell you 30, costs you 40. There's always extra. It doesn't exist. There's not going to be extra. Pitom vetram says, Rav Shmuel, one of them says, Chadamar shepitom shma, the pitom is the name. Velama nika shma Ramses. So why is it called Ramses? Sherishon mitroses, because it's going to be mitporer. The Chadamar Ramses shma. So why is it called pitom? Sherishon pitehom boleo. That is going to come and it's going to absorb it. Says what? Look, there's going to be much more of the Rabu v'chem parzu. So Amar Shakish says, Shakish Ruach HaKodesh mevasartan. Right? The Ruach HaKodesh is going to come and is going to let them know. V'ken yibe v'chen yifrotz. Ve'ekutzu b'minem Yisrael melamed shayu domim benehem kekotzim. It was in their eyes like kotzim, like thorns. Okay? Ve'ekutzu b'minem Yisrael melamed shayu domim benehem kekotzim. Vayavidu mitzrayim b'nei Yisrael. So they came and they made them work, hard work. Rabbi Lazar Amar b'feh rach, with a soft voice. What does that mean? That they came and they started very nicely, softly. And that's how they started very gently to make them work. And then afterwards they gave it to them on the head. Where they're breaking their backs. It was like, gosh, break hard work. By Marut Chayim, by Yudalef Amud Bet, 11b. By Marut Chayim Bavodah Kasha B'chol Me'Me'unim Chol Avodah B'Sadeh. So they made their lives bitter with this work. Amar Rava says, B'tchila B'chol Me'Me'unim Ulvasof U'Chol Avodah B'Sadeh. By the beginning, they went and they did it with Chol Me'Me'unim. Then afterwards, they did it with all the Avodah in the Sadeh. Ekol Avodah Dama Shel Avodah Mefarech. Amar Shmuel Bar Nachman Yom Yonatan says Shmuel Bar Nachman Yom Yonatan. Shayu Machlifim Melechet Anashim Melechet Anashim. They switched the jobs. Men had to do women's jobs, and women had to do men's jobs. So that's why it was Avodah Kasha. It was difficult because it was against their nature. According to the Bandam that says Beferach. Here for sure, it's going to be considered Befarech means like a difficult job. The Rash of Avira came and he expounded. It's incredible how all this is to do with Mitzrayim. And we're in the middle of Chol Moed Pesach. He says, in the merit of Nashim Tzadkaniot in that generation, Bnei Yisrael were redeemed from Mitzrayim. Because when they came to draw the water, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he invited to them. He got for them that means he got them prepared small little fish in their kads. Shoavot, they used to bring them up. Half of it was fish and half of it was water. They used to come and they used to put on the fire, one of the fish, right, and one of the hot water, right. They used to go to the fields. They used to wash them. They used to give them oil to anoint themselves. Right? They used to anoint them with oil. They used to give them fish. They used to give them to drink the hot water. And then they used to have relations with them, right, in the fields. Right? And then by doing that, what happened? He comes and he says, in the marriage that these Nashim Tzadkiniot, they came and they enticed their husbands to have relations, to have children. So they had bizab mizayim shenemar, kanfeinu nechpe b'kesef, levrotea birakrak charutz. What does that mean? Am Yisrael, which is like a yonah, which is like a pigeon, right? They're covered with silver, right? Once they became pregnant, they used to go to their houses. And once they had to give birth, they used to go to the fields and they used to give birth underneath the apple trees. That I came in underneath the apple trees, they used to give birth. Some of these used to come, used to clean the babies, just like the midwife that would come and take care of the child. Right? He says there was nobody that was able to even cut the umbilical cord. Right? Umbilical cord. Nobody to come and to wash the child. So he used to come and make them like 2 kikarot, one of oil, one of honey. Once the Mitzrayim realized, they used to try to kill them. Meaning the Mitzrayim realized, 1 second, these Jews, what are they doing? They're giving birth right in the fields. Let's go out and kill all the babies. The miracle would happen. They would be swallowed in the ground. So they used to come and used to plow in order to come and kill them. But what happened? They used to come the second that the Egyptians left. What happened? They used to come, they used to start coming out. And once they start growing, they used to come, right, to their houses. So when they were the first ones, they recognized the Kadosh Baruch Hu in the sea. Why? Because since they already knew Hashem from the beginning, because they grew up in such a miraculous way, they were the first ones to say Zeli Vanveo. But King of Mitzrayim told the midwives, one of them said mother and daughter. One of them said it was the Kala v'chamota, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. According to the Mandamar, Yishavita was the mother and daughter, Yocheved and Miriam. According to the Mandamar, Kala v'chamota was mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, it was Yocheved and Elisheva. Elisheva was the wife of Aaron HaKohen. Tanya, Kamanda Amar Yishavita, we learned like a Braita that says Yishavita. Tanya, we learned a Braita, Shifra do Yocheved. Why was she called Shifra? That she used to come and make the child beautiful. That they came and they multiplied during her days. Pua is Miriam. Why was her name called Pua? She used to sing to the child. She used to say, my mother is going to have the salvation by the one, the savior of Bnei Israel. So they said, when the Jewish wives, they come and they give birth, they don't need us. What is an ovnaim? He gave them a beautiful siman. When a woman is going to give birth, her feet become very, very cold, like stone, right? So therefore, and that's when you're supposed to take the child and kill it. And some people say, that the 2 thighs on the 2 different sides, right? He says, and the rest is in the middle. So to a woman, she has 1 leg here, 1 leg there, and the child is coming out of the middle. And then she has her 2 legs spread out, and the child coming out of the middle. Okay? So if it's a boy, you're going to kill him. He gave them a beautiful siman. Ben panav lemata. In the olden days, when a boy was born, he was always born downwards. When a girl was born, it was always upwards. Why? The way that they were created, it was basically the way that they are during the relations. That the man is on top looking down and the woman is on the bottom looking up. So therefore, that's the way that it is. What is lahen, not alehen, onto them? Do you know that Paro wanted Yocheved and Miriam to do an avera with him? But they didn't listen to him. And then, right, he made them live, the children. He says, Tana lo dayan shalomitu. Not only did not kill the children, the babies. He used to give them bread and water. Right? So he says, right, so they said, listen, the women, the Jewish women, they're not like the non-Jewish women. Right? My chayot, what do you mean they're chayot? Elam, you're going to tell me mashal like they're wild animals. Right? That means they're like miyaldot. Atu chayam, even if you're going to be a midwife needs another midwife. A doctor, he cannot do a surgery on himself. He needs somebody else to do the surgery on him. I said, no, they're like wild animals. Yehuda, is good idea. Dani, Danachash, Yehuda is like the lion, Dan is like the snake, Naphtali is like the Ayala, Issachar is like the Chamor, the donkey, Yosef is like the ox, Binyamin is like the wolf, right? Right? Whichever is not written. What does that mean? So he says, is like Chayot Sadeh. So therefore he comes and he says, a chaya, a wild animal, doesn't need somebody to give it birth. It gives birth on its own. So same thing. He says that they actually got houses. In the fact of the merit of what they did, they got houses. What was the houses? And Malchut. According to Mandam Bate Kuna Leviyah was Aaron and Moshe. Mandam Bate Malchut was David also. He came from Midian. Right? So which means Azuvah is Midian. So it comes out when it says over here Vatamot is that she got Sarat. So Vayikach lo Kalevet Efrat, the Kavanah is that after she became he took her again after she became so it comes out that Efrat is Midian. Okay, Efrat is Midian. David ben Ish Efrati. That David was an Efrati. So it means after Midian was cured, she was called like Efrat. Okay? וכלב וחצור הוליד את הזובה אישה ואת ידיעות ואלה בניה ישב ושובב באדום בן חצור מנפנהו. It's כלב ונפונה, not בן חצור. It says no, בן שפנה מעצת הרגלים. בן יפונה was he turned away, יפונה. פנה מעצת הרגלים from the bad advice of the מרגלים. So it says you're going to find. but still, it's כלב, is he בן חצור? בן כנזו. ואז it says, ויקראו עתניאל בן כנז, אחי כלב. Right? He's still אחי. It says no, אמר Rabbi comes and he says, he was a stepbrother, which means the mother of Kalev was married to Kenaz and got married and had a child, Otniel ben Kenaz. So Otniel and Kalev were only brothers from the mother. They weren't brothers from the father. And it's also written a Kenizi Shema Mina. That's why it's written over there. No, it doesn't say Ben Kenaz. It says a Kenizi, right? Because we learn from here that he wasn't the son of Kenaz, but people that he was like the one who was Megadeloto, the one that was bringing him up. And then the Gemara is going to explain about Azuvah and Miriam. We continue tomorrow after Shachri.